And with this global map, we would like to show how software leasing successfully have been implemented in more than 40 projects, and we cover a world map. So we have mainly half of the projects successfully implemented in North America and Canada. We have a huge footprint in Australia and New Zealand market, several captive group customers in Africa, and of course Europe, our local market. And moving further to tighten that global map, here I would like to represent some captive group customers who have divisions worldwide in the different continents. So that's the flexibility of the solution and how we adhere to the regulatory requirements around the world. So the names talk for themselves. And now I would like to give the stage to my colleague Tautvydas to overview the market trends.
Thank you, Sandra, for this beautiful intro. Hello, everyone, one more time. My name is Tautvydas. Don't be scared if you don't remember my name from the first time. It's totally understandable. I'm the product manager for software leasing, and today I would like to walk you through the recent trends in Latin American region and what we were observing with our partners. We'll follow through with the software leasing software introduction afterwards, so please bear with us for next hour or so. So for today's quick and guidance, we have overall business finance climate in the region, trends of mergers and acquisitions, how does that affect asset finance business, and what we can expect in the upcoming year. So let's get on to it. During 2023, financial markets either closed or declined a little with entirely or tightening their pricing on credit approval standards to restrict basically the use of borrowed capital and for non-essential purposes. And this happened due to high interest rates and decreasing mergers and acquisitions activity in the region. So this had consequences as well, not only in Latin America nations, but also globally. So consequently, there was obvious decrease in merger and acquisition activity, as you can see on the chart, as banks had to reduce their capital for acquisitions and showed basically limited interest in acquiring existing platforms or asset finance platforms. So the chart, as you can see, it represents past 4 years of mergers and acquisitions deal value in billions of US dollars in Latin America from 2020 to 2023. And the recent trend from 2021 is quite obvious, declining number of deals. So it's the number that you can see in front of you is represented in value of in billions of US dollars. So if we move on to the next slide, you can see that the complete number of deals has also decreased a little bit. So it can be seen in the number of deals concluded in half one and half two. So which has dropped basically significantly over the past year due to the commercial banks retreating to the sidelines. And it was especially visible in the number of deals concluded in the second half of 2023. And as you can see on the chart, it dropped almost by 20-25%. And overall, the trend line of mergers and acquisition has been declining over the past few years. So on the other hand, the trends that we were observing was that the situation differed significantly for independent and captive equipment finance firms, basically who capitalized on the bank's retreat. So numerous independent companies closed with record business volume in 2023, basically catering the paying customers that banks left behind by the banks and in the past year or so. So as we are observing the situation in the region at the moment that the independents and captive equipment firms capitalizing on the big banks' retreat after the bankruptcies and turmoil in the financial markets in the beginning of 2020 and 2023. And of course, welcoming and supporting those abandoned clients always brings in new business opportunities. And basically, we still expect that this trend will continue during 2024. And as ex-bank clients are welcomed by independent companies and captive automotive companies, and basically entirely viewing this trend from afar, it signals for us a new shift in asset finance industry in Latin America. So this could create a very interesting opportunities for independents and captives, assuming basically larger shares of the equipment and financing market. This can also very obviously be seen in general lending interest rates dynamics, what you can see on the slide. So we basically expect to see more of this fallout on 2024, and during this year, the rankings should look quite different because with quite a high interest rate still in the market, and with lower overall industry volumes, independents and captives should rise and regain the share of the market, as mentioned. And one of the good signals that we can see in the interest rates that Latin America has increased its interest rates much earlier than the rest of the world. So it happened in the beginning of 2022, and the balancing period was during the 2022-2023. And by the end, countries like Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Peru were leading the pack with trying to ease the monetary policy and drop the rates in order to have the easier access to capital. So this is a good trend for independence because, of course, for the economy as a whole as well, because it stimulates the financing and influx of money into the markets. So as a textbook, recession didn't hit in 2023, although we had several signs of it, because there were major banks in the United States bankruptcy, filing for bankruptcy, like Silicon Valley Bank or Signature Bank or other smaller banks. But despite those facts, a recession didn't hit and didn't gain its traction. So by the end of 2023, we were following one of the most popular indexes indicating the health of the leasing industry, and that is Equipment Leasing and Finance Association published monthly leasing and finance index. So it reported a very moderate but quite a substantial growth of 3.9% in the new business volume year over year. So it was basically owing to the quite high interest rates, tightening lending standards, and as well shifting trends towards independent companies who were regaining the customers left over by the banks. So generally speaking, with less capital available to lend, banks have retreated to assessing their risks, in fact. And they were not competing as aggressively on the price of financing. And this situation puts a little less pressure on the companies, independent companies, to cut their margins in order to attract new customers. So that builds a very unique opportunity, and this could mean that we could see not a very high increase in business volume in 2024, but the profitability should increase as a whole. So one of the main challenges that we are observing with our partners in the region is that the lies in diversification of funding sources. Because successful independent companies should continue to focus on diversifying their funding sources, and that's the major lesson from the banking crisis of spring 2023. And as I mentioned, the bankruptcies that happened in the United States and had consequences on other markets, on financial markets as well, like bankruptcies of the banks. And still, those lessons learned, and we think that independents and captives should stick to the fundamentals and procure their fundings through classical funding sources like retained earnings, debt capital, or equity capital. And at this point, although we see very unique situation forming, we see a unique opportunity as well. So because increased cost of financing means there's a now higher value proposition for true equipment leasing. Because if you don't have to compete for the margins, what do you compete for? You compete for a higher value. And that's one of the unique opportunities that we see in Latin American region. So for the companies who basically can successfully communicate that the risk is manageable and propose a higher value proposition to the customers, will be gaining the traction and speeds during 2024. So companies also have an opportunity to grow revenue by offering new kinds of leases, for instance, managed services or equipment as a service. There's another interesting development: high interest rates paired with overall impacts of the inflation and wage growth. They pose a challenge to the entire model of low rate based equipment finance. And that low rates based equipment finance model has been dominating in the region for at least past 2 decades. So we are seeing some of our clients reteaching their sales executives about operating leases, about the leasing process itself, both the advantages in a higher rate environment and how to structure them. So basically, this refreshed, if you may call so, skill set for the sales team is critical, because many of them haven't worked in the past in the high rate environments. So there we see a new growth opportunity. Of course, one of the most important things that we have to look at, those are the management pain points and that the region is facing. And as we interviewed our partners and talked with our local players in the region, we were assuming some of the highest risks that we were seeing throughout the region, and those were outlined in a few lines. And we see that the inflation is one of the highest challenges. Of course, inflation results in rising prices and of services and goods, and it tends to readjust the expenditure habits from the customers. Of course, still lurking prospects of recession and that general holding back of new investments, and which influences the tightening spending. Of course, softening in hiring, because the perspective is very dim and you have to know what to do and whether to hire or add on top of your team or stay frugal at the moment. And of course, one of the most painful points is the tightening of IT spending, because this is the driver or the engine for modernization of your business and going forwards. Not only top CEOs and management challenges were outlined, but we also gathered some of the data on factors that weighing in on the 2024 economic outlook. And those are pretty much global influence factors that will have effect on the results of 2024. So we see it as a generally slowing global economic growth due to, again, record high interest rates, potential evidence of declining credit quality, but this is still to be seen during the year, because markets are reassembling them after the turmoils that happened last year. Inflation, of course, that's an issue. Rising consumer debt in some of the countries is also a very high criteria or very high, let's say, issue that dictates their behavior. And of course, geopolitical risks that we're facing. Two major wars that dictate energy price volatility and supply chain disruptions, because Red Sea is still in the war zone, and we are facing some of the very unprecedented challenges that the world hasn't faced until now. And going from these quite heavy facts and heavy overview, I would like to draw your attention to a little bit lighter facts that we have. Several Latin American countries have implemented widely the policies and initiatives to accelerate the transition to renewable energy. And that is very, very exciting for us because we are watching those trends. We hope that the opportunities will arrive for us as well. And growing market for electric vehicles and renewable fuels, this is very important for Latam. It has quite a few options to offer. However, the risks are that efforts towards the biofuels, such as palm oil or derived biodiesel, are questionable due to their detrimental impact on jungle and wildlife. So there's still a clear direction to be defined in the coming year. So here are some of the interesting facts that we found that Brazil is home to a large biofuel industry and producing ethanol from sugarcane. We didn't know that, but the use of biofuel is highly preferred, and some of the pipeline equipment that is catered to that industry could be an opportunity for business for captive and independent companies. We also found out very interesting fact that Chile's electromobilidad aims to convert around 100% of its public bus fleet to electric by 2040. So in Europe, Norway has similar goal, but that goal is by 2030. So Chile is not far behind. So the country also has the largest installed solar power capacity, providing a renewable energy source for electric vehicles. Colombia also invested in expanding biofuel production from palm oil and sugarcane residues, and while developing the nationwide network of biodiesel and bioethanol pumps. So entire equipment that goes into that pipeline could be also a very interesting business opportunity. And Mexico has much more short-term goals. It has an aim to have 15% of new vehicles sold by 2024 powered only by electricity or hybrid technologies. I have to be honest, we haven't checked the progress and we don't know how they are doing. But we hope it's all good, and we see that as we basically facing a little bit different reality than we are used to, and we expect that 2024 still will be a year of a growth, but a little bit slower, a little bit mature growth, but still growth. And but there's as I mentioned, due to unique circumstances, there's vast opportunity for increased profitability and business expansion in equipment leasing and finance and asset finance this year. So we hope that independents and captives will pick up the left customers from the banks, and will have new opportunities during the year. Whether this will be a permanent structural outcome and trend remains to be seen by the end of the year. So generally, we expect that the success this year will require the ability to be very, very nimble and adjust quite quickly to changing circumstances in the market. So this is an environment that will reward business strategies rooted with patience and long-term perspective as well. So that would be it for my review and overview. And I would like to give a short word to Sandra.
Thank you, Tautvydas. Thank you a lot. That was really insightful overview. And since we navigate the future of leasing in Latam, let's delve into the factors influencing the leasing business's future and how industry players can adapt to stay ahead. And I would like to start with the need to meet the regulatory compliance around the country level. And since the leasing industry is a subject to varying regulatory frameworks across different Latam countries, which can pose compliance challenges, understanding and adapting those local regulations can be complex and time-consuming. What we mean is meeting all regulations, data security, audit, consumer credits, financial reporting, so everything is non-negotiable. And as an illustrative example could be, for example, Peru, that was one of the latest that shaped a legal base for the leasing industry, or quite an opposite. For example, Mexico's dynamic operating lease market, where prominent industry leaders control approximately 25,000 vehicles, often compared to a dominant market forces. A second one that I would like to pay you an extra attention is the socioeconomic realities and the fleet management. So basically, increasing awareness of environmental and social issues has led to a growing demand for sustainable and socially responsible business practices. And a fascinating trend emerging in Latam is that employers empowering employees to purchase their vehicles issued after the end of the lease cycle, and ensuring the safety of fleet drivers and securing operations against vehicle and cargo theft. These are crucial priorities for fleet managers in Latin America. And this is how I would like organically lead to our third component into the presentation. The challenge is that the fleet managers will have to implement the stringent cost control measures. So controlling financial exposure, monitoring real-time data, managing dishonored payments, implementing leasing risk level controls, and utilizing tools to control spending limits per customer, especially in a full service lease scenarios, these are critical aspects. And new approaches highlighting the actual costs, including maintenance, for example, preventative or corrective one, as well as insurance, fuel, fines, and relief vehicles, all are associated with the old fleet acquisition and management methods. So basically, balancing global and regional strategies can yield cost efficiencies. And as Latin America's leasing ecosystem continues to evolve, a strategic outlook remains pivotal. Another one aspect that I would like to review today is the technology integration. The leasing industry in Latam has historically been slower in adapting advanced technologies. And the challenge lies in upgrading legacy systems, as well as integrating digital solutions for improved customer experience, operational efficiency, risk management. Of course, the trend is toward digitalization, including online platforms for lease applications, automated underwriting processes, and the use of data analytics for risk assessment. So basically, leasing companies that invest in the technology are likely to gain a competitive advantage in the market. And the last one, not the least one, is a real-time portfolio reporting. So in response to the economic instability that Tautvydas overviewed before, there was a characterization by the factors as inflation, currency fluctuations, political uncertainty. Leasing businesses face considerable challenges in predicting cash flows and evaluating the creditworthiness of the potential lessees. And one of the critical challenges is the demand for a real-time portfolio reporting. So as the market becomes more competitive, clients and the shareholders expect up-to-the-minute insights into their portfolios. Leasing companies must adapt advanced reporting systems so that they could provide a comprehensive and a real-time view of their portfolio health, enhance transparency, and actually build trust within the clients and within the investors. So this is how I would like to lead to my second slide, and to give a short introduction about software leasing architecture. Basically, Tautvydas in a couple of minutes will show a high-level demonstration. So before we jump straight into the interface, I thought it's very useful to understand the architecture. So software leasing is built on top of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So as it is all in one, you get the ERP, an accounting system, and the extension for lease management, accounting, and financial accounting. So it gives the security, the data integrity, audit, compliancy, and our add-on, the software leasing, is available on Microsoft App Stores. And let's focus into the right side of the slide, what it is, the software leasing. So basically, it's an end-to-end software providing the front, the mid, and the back offices. Basically, what you do, you start with the quotes, with the applications, asset management, credit assessment, contract management, terminations, yearly payouts, reschedulings, payment holidays, financial hardships, reschedulings, and more. And the benefit of the solution is that mainly it covers all financial products or concepts. So we call it operating lease around Europe, but in your region, most of the time you call it open-end lease. We have a finance lease or close-end lease, hire purchase, chattel mortgage, novated lease, and unsecured loans. And the solution, the software leasing is a very intuitive system. So there is a possibility to have the workflows, notifications, document templates, to assign the role centers for the users. And I would like jump straight to the flexibility. I think these two components correlate with each other. The system is really flexible and it's suitable for small businesses to launch in new countries. And when the business scales, you can adapt and you can increase the functionalities because we have a modular structure. So whenever you have a business need, you see where you can reach more or increase the efficiency, or you have some other supporting systems that could help increase the efficiency or control list management. The system is open for integrations and open to add additional modules on top. And one more that it's actually in the last stage, but it's maybe it should be in the first place. It's research and development. So here we invest quite a huge amount of hours to support the product, to evolve it. And since we have a global base of customers and the captive groups, not only theoretically, but from the market side, we get the insights. So we adhere to the Microsoft philosophy, and twice per year, we release new versions of the improved solution. So Tautvydas, I would like to lead the stage to you, and maybe you could introduce with that interface of our beautiful solution.
Okay, thank you, Sandra, very much for this beautiful overview, beautiful short intro. And as I was walking you through the process of economic trends and finance trends, of course, this is with the purpose that we are monitoring the asset finance businesses in Latin America. We are very aware of the situation. And of course, with our awesome partner, Optimus, we are trying to tackle the market and offer the best solution that is available. So we hope this will be the best solution. So give me a moment to share my screen. So can everyone see my screen? If I could get one feedback or two?
Not yet. Still the slide.
What about now?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So I dove right into the back end of our system, and what you can see in front of you is the Microsoft Dynamics 365 based Business Central based extension, which is software leasing. As Sandra mentioned, software leasing is already in its maturity years because it's almost 20 years old. And the solution is a little bit older than the company itself because we started a little earlier than the company was established. So in front of you, what you can see is the entire dashboard that would be available to two types of employees and two, let's say, business processes type of employees. So this would be originator section that you can see in front of you. That's the introducer section, where the salesperson or dealership or anyone else of that role could perform any actions to introduce a deal and introduce a quote. And the second section that you can see is the back office. The back office that has the all of the functionality to perform a due diligence, to check the documents, to evaluate finance and credit, to give the evaluation functionality for finance and credit officers, and so on. So let's just dive right into the process a little bit. Being a super user, for the purpose of this demonstration, I have access to all the functionality. So if I would act as a salesperson and follow the process, if I had a new customer, I would like to introduce the quote to the customer. So I would click on the tile of open quotes, and I've taken the liberty to fill out one of the quotes previously before we started the demonstration. And let me just expand the fields so you could see the info better. So basically, what you can see in front of you is the initial quote document that you would fill out with initial data about the customer himself, about the financial product that the customer is choosing, about the asset that the customer is choosing, and financing details. Just basic, very basic information that you could pass on to the customer to make a decision whether he wants to progress with signing up for financial or other lease. So here we would choose any type of product. As Sandra mentioned, we have financial lease, we have chattel mortgage, we have full service lease, and other products. And for the sake of this demonstration, I've chosen the simplest of the products. This is the financial lease. We can either enter new customer or choose from the list of existing customers. I chose existing customer, Mr. James Kelly, who was first on the list, and he would be an individual customer, not the business customer. So as we go along further, there are the details of the customer with the contact information. Then we would have the asset information. We chose a smallest and the cutest Toyota Yaris hybrid, which I heard is quite popular in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. And the finance details with the information about financed amount and installment amount. There we still have the info about the applicant himself and the supplier or originator. In this case, this is the dealership. So let's choose the dealership. We have a long list of dealership, but I'm going to choose any random dealership and press on OK. There we go. So dealership information gets pulled from the database, and we have the info filled out and everything good. So we only have to indicate, in order to process further, we have to indicate the salesperson. So I'm just going to indicate any salesperson, and I will try to print the quote. So document gets rendered, it gets downloaded. And just in order for me to go and process further, I can open up the Mr. James Kelly quote, press on the information icon, and the quote that has been generated to the customer has been attached to the documents bin. We also have the file drops area here, which I'm going to explain a little bit later on, but let's just move on through the stages, not to stall here too much. So let's say that we've sent the quote that we've generated to the customer, and the customer wants to process further with financing the asset, and the customer requests us to convert the quote on the same conditions to the application stage. So naturally, the system gives us an option, automatic option, create the application based on the quote that we procured a little bit earlier. So we have new application created based on that quote. Our application number is 222619. So just press OK. And the application has been created. Now we have several options on top of the menu. So we can either validate the application to see whether it's valid for submission. It is valid for submission, but at the same time, we can check the information by expanding the respective fields. So here goes the customer data. Here goes the details about the address of the customer and the information about the customer's bank account and bank at which customer has account with. So let's collapse this information and let's see whether the asset is right. So we have the right asset, Toyota Yaris. Let's check the approval conditions. There should be a supplier invoice or quote, which we have, a copy of borrower's bank statement, and copy of borrower's ID. So those are the documents that we should attach during the approval steps. So we can validate the application once again, see that it's all good, collapse this section, and let's submit this application for approval. Yes. Good. So let's note that our application number is 222619. So it's going to follow through the process. Let's go back. And let's see that our open quotes are gone. Now we have new applications and submitted for approval. Let's check. There we go. We have submitted for approval. So me as a salesperson, I can follow and see that the application has been referred. And now the application has processed to the back office section, because back office section, credit officers or finance managers, they should evaluate the entire application and see whether it's a valid customer and whether they can finance the customer. So in the back office, I have the pool of team tasks. I would simply click on open and see that I have on top of the list the application assessment and application submitted for assessment. That's the current step description and workflow name. So regarding Mr. James Kelly, financial lease 222619. So I'm just going to press open. Since for the sake of this demonstration, I'm acting as a super user, I have access to all of the functionality. So I have access as a salesperson, I have access as a finance manager, and I have access as a compliance manager as well. So in this stage, I'm acting as a finance manager, and process-wise, I can also request the system, what actions can I perform? So system gives me a natural next step to delegate this applications towards some sort of a next decision-making body in the company. But for the sake of this demonstration, I would just add some officer notes to go and none reason, just to see that all of the information is there. One more thing that I want to emphasize, that the system doesn't require you to save anything, because once any bit of information has been entered in the system, it gives you a warning at the top of right hand of the screen that it has been automatically saved. So I'm just going to collapse this section, expand this one, see that the financing and application summary is here. We can also see the exposure of the customer. So the customer has more financed deals because it's almost $40,000 US per Mr. James Kelly. And let's see, approval conditions are there, documents are there, and credit decision details are also there. So I'm just gonna press on next step and proceed for approval to credit team. Yes, of course, I do want to proceed. Okay, so now the system has changed the status of the application, and as we can see that the current step description also has changed. The take credit decision is the decision that should be made in the back office by credit officer. So I'm just going to go back. Application is still sitting in the pool of team tasks. I'm just going to open it once again. process further to approve, because I think it's suitable to approve the Mr. James Kelly. So now that the Mr. James Kelly application has been approved, that means that he can progress further, that the salesperson who has introduced the deal can progress further with the customer's application. And that application has gone back into the pool of approved applications, back into the front office to the salesperson, because the salesperson has to procure the contract, and the contract should be introduced to the customer for signature, and so on and so on. So let's open up and perform those basic actions. So we have a very simple way to let's say introduce the documents to the customer's file, and that way is by dragging and dropping any sort of a document. And let me just perform that action. I will grab any random document that could help us process further. And let's say we'll grab a ID, drag and drop, and we're gonna grab the copy of the bank statement, drag and drop. So there we go. We have dummy ID, copy of dummy ID, and copy of dummy bank statements. So because we are using not real documents, and by expanding the section of documents, I could simply indicate what type of document that is. So since it's a ID, I should mark as applicant ID, and since it's a bank statement, I should mark as a bank statement, because those are two required documents that were to be introduced. So let's.
And Autodesk, just maybe if I can interact, you're using a couple of screens so the customers could understand you're not doing magic where those documents come in. So
yeah. Drag and drop the document from another screen, so you wouldn't be confused, but it's very simple. And let's try printing the documents, because one mandatory step that was required, we needed to have the contract available to us. So once we select print the documents, the system gives an automatic option of creating the lease contract for business ready and secured guarantee. So in this, for the sake of this demonstration, we're just gonna choose simple lease contract and instruct the system to procure the contract. It gives me an option to save the contract. I'm just gonna save it. And let's check whether the contract has been attached to the particular case. And there we go. The last document that is sitting in the documents bin is the lease contract. So let's assume that the customer has signed the document, signed the contract. And as you can see, the application is still sitting in the pool of approved applications. So Mr. James Kelly has signed the contract, and we want to submit those Mr. James Kelly application for settlement to the back office. So let's just submit it for settlement. Yes. Okay. And the application pool has decreased by one number, and the application has gone into the team tasks to the back office again. So now we have a different current step is the submitted for compliance, and I'm acting as a compliance officer at this point. So I'm just going to open up the application and evaluate its compliance requirements. And let's go through the process quickly. So I'm just going to have to indicate the contract's activation date, because without it, we wouldn't be able to activate the contract. Collapse this section. Then we would fill out the mandatory blank fields. Let's pick any random date, and let's name Mr. James's account, James account. Okay, so all of the information is there, and I'm acting as a compliance officer once again. So this is a different role. So where I have to check whether all of the documentation, all of the information is there. So I'm just going to mark that it's complied, and the system gives us automatic stamp of the user who has checked the mandatory fields and the timestamp. Checklist collapse. Let's check the documents. Let's mark that they are compliant as well. Approval conditions. And there we have 3 mandatory approval conditions, and we're going to mark them compliant as well. So applicants and the asset. So one of the most essential bits of information, we have to enter assets VIN number. So we would be able to follow to which asset this contract has been attached. And let's go for the process. So I'm acting as a compliance officer. I would choose to comply it. And let's see whether our application has been approved. Okay, so it's not sitting anymore in the with the former status. Let's look for our application. So Mr. James Kelly contract dropped to the bottom of the list since it's waiting for its own row. So I'm just going to open quickly and confirm the application. There we go. So since I was acting as the compliance officer, this is the last step of the process of a simplified high-level demo process. From this point on, there's only one step left until the activation. So if I want to activate the application towards the contract stage, because all of the necessary data has been submitted, all of the necessary documents are there, I'm just gonna click on that activate, and the system will give me the automatic notification whether should I activate the contract. So yes, I would like to activate the contract. And now the contract FL Financial Lease 222619 has been activated and moved to active contract lists. Let's say I'm very pedantic and I want to check whether that is true. So we have the back office and we have the stage of decision making, and we have the stage of active contracts sitting right next to it. So I'm just gonna click on it, and there we go. Our Mr. James Kelly is enjoying his brand new and shiny Toyota Yaris hybrid. And that contract is active, and Mr. James Kelly car is on his way to the delivery. One more thing that I wanted to show you is that, of course, it is very easy to check the financing details of the customer, check the details that have been entered about the customer's payment methods, who is the applicant, and so on. But at the same time, you have the option to start, let's say, check the installment schedule of the customer as well by pressing on top of the menu and see what payments are there. You can also go for the variations on the live contract, because you can perform various actions and create collection letters, for instance, if you have the need to do it. So as I'm looking at the clock, I think we have only 5 minutes left. So I'm just going to stop at this point and maybe go towards the questions and answers round if there are any. And I will thank you for your patience and attention during this demo.